What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of the Michigan Recruiting Report. It's our official visit preview show. Official visits are here. It is about to be June, and that means prospects from around the country, Michigan's top targets, will be making their way to Ann Arbor over the next month. That also usually equates to commitments. So we'll see if we'll have some good news here on our YouTube channel. I am joined today by my co-host, Ethan McDowell, who we haven't seen in a little while. Well, we haven't done shows at all because both of us have been traveling a lot during the spring. But how are you doing, Ethan?
Good, man. A little tired from the travel, but I'm ready to get into what is basically the holiday season of recruiting these next 4 weeks here.
Yeah, it's obviously exciting. Before we do that, remember, guys, if you want more exclusive Michigan recruiting information, especially with official visit season coming up here soon, you're going to want to subscribe to the Wolverine.com. Use that promo code UM1. That's $1 for 2 months over at the Wolverine.com. Again, get exclusive insider recruiting information heading into official visit season, coming out of these big official visit weekends. It's your one-stop shop for everything Michigan recruiting. Instead of waiting for our live shows, you can interact with us on a daily basis on our great message board community, The Fort, which has thousands and thousands of Michigan fans. Plus, you can get insider information on the team, basketball recruiting, transfer portal, and so much more. All right, let's go ahead and just start off on the offensive side of the ball, Ethan. And one of the more intriguing prospects coming in this weekend, who I think could potentially be a commitment candidate if Michigan pushes, and that's Christian Ward. But I think his situation's a little murky. You went out to Atlanta, you visited with Christian Ward. Kind of expand on what's going on with him.
Yeah, so we've seen him a few times and talked to him a bunch this spring just because he's been at a lot of the 7-on-7 tournaments we've been to. And every time we've talked to him, EJ, he's made it very clear that Michigan is his number one school and leads his recruitment. And I think it's a situation where I think he wants to be a Wolverine. And we'll see how hard they push for commitment right now on the official visit. I think he's also simultaneously wanting to find a place to commit, but I think he also wants to build a closer relationship with the staff, and that's why this official visit's important. But I think if he commits anywhere, or I think if his top choice is Michigan, I think it just boils down to that, and we'll see how hard Michigan pushes for that pledge over the next few days.
Yeah, we did get a chance to see. I got a chance to see him at the Sevens in Atlanta. So did Ethan, but obviously Ethan again saw him this spring. But at that 7-on-7 tournament, you could see the upside with Christian Ward. I think he would be a really intriguing take. Now he doesn't have the best track times, but he is a bigger receiver, a little bit different than maybe a Jamar Browder, maybe closer to Jacob Washington in the sense that he has a little bit of a leaner frame, good catch radius, really good athletic upside. Definitely a project, which is why you see his rankings all over the place. But I think if you're Michigan, yeah, you still have Travis Johnson, Calvin Russell, those types of guys on the board, but I don't think Christian Ward would be a bad take this early. Just stock the wide receiver room with some interesting weapons for Bryce Underwood. I mean, I guess, Ethan, last thing, just quick yes or no. Do you think Michigan should take Christian Ward?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move on because there is another intriguing wide receiver coming to campus this weekend, and that's Zion Robinson out of the great state of Texas. Now, Zion Robinson, maybe not exactly the same situation as Christian Ward, but a little bit of similar prospects in the sense that Zion also, kind of a taller receiver, 6'2", 6'2.5", really lean frame. But I think Zion gets the advantage over Christian because he does have track times. He ran a sub 11 100 meter as a sophomore. And I think, again, the track times for Christian Ward don't really pop out like that. They do for Zion Robinson. same thing. He has that athletic upside. He's really raw. He's probably a project, which again is why the rankings vary up and down. I mean, one service has him top 100, on three has him outside of the top 80 wide receivers in the country. But I think he's a guy with a really, really high ceiling, really good kid too. And originally from the Midwest, actually is not
Yeah.
a true Texan, recently moved from Ohio to the state of Texas. So very willing to go back to the Midwest. And I mean, when you look at the other contenders for Zion Robinson, Miami, they have some other wide receivers high on the board. Stanford, has that coaching situation going on. TCU is the local school, but again, it's not like Robinson is a native Texan. So I think the door is open for Michigan to make a move with Zion Robinson. I went down to the Dallas area, visited with him in the spring, and he had nothing but positive things to say about Michigan, which has made kind of a late push. They offered in the winter. There was a drop off in contact. They've made a strong surge. They hosted him for the spring game. So I think things can work out with Michigan and Zion Robinson. And I think the preference might be Zion over Christian Ward. It's interesting that they're both coming in the same weekend. Ethan, anything you want to add on the Zion Robinson front?
I think out of all of the visitors this weekend, if you ask me like for like a moderate surprise, for like a moderately surprising commitment, I might go with Zion just because, like you said, it makes a lot of sense given Michigan's need at outside receiver, given the regional ties. It's, Michigan's been, involved in his recruitment since really early before they offered because he was an Ohio kid and was a big time recruit coming out of that region. So I think he's someone that just makes a lot of sense for Michigan in this class, and someone that maybe a lesser known name on the board that Michigan fans should be paying a little closer attention to.
Okay, Ethan, I'm going to ask you again a very quick question. Zion Robinson or Christian Ward?
I'd go with Zion Robinson, I think.
I'd probably lean Zion as well. So those are the two wide receivers coming in this weekend. Now, there may be a tight end coming in this weekend. There might not be a tight end coming in this weekend, and that is Ian Premer, one of the elite tight ends in the country out of the state of Kansas, ranked as the number 3 tight end by On3 and kind of in that 5-star territory. But Michigan already landed 2 tight ends, Mason Bonner and Matt Ludwig. Ethan, kind of fill in Michigan fans on Premer in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, Premer, the number 3 tight end in the country. I think he's always been a shoot for the stars type of target. He keeps his recruitment super, super quiet, seems to like the in-state Kansas schools. He's considering Iowa State really strongly. So it's not like a typical blue blood recruitment there. But I mean, it always seemed like there's someone that Michigan would be psyched to have. I mean, he is a really fun prospect to watch if you ever get to watch his huddle film. But I think they were always kind of pushing for Ludwig and Bonner. I think that was always the ideal 2 tight ends to get in the class. And shoot, maybe you keep pushing and try to land, a best available guy like Ian Premer, who is a potential game changer at that position. But I mean, I think they're pretty happy with the 2 tight ends they got because they got 2 really good players there.
Yeah, I think we haven't taken him off the list officially. I'd be surprised if he does make it in. I tried to do some digging today and was just told it's not likely. So again, it is Thursday as we are recording this, but I wouldn't expect him in. And even if he does make it in, it's a bit of an uphill battle. I think some of those, regional schools, Kansas State, Iowa State, Kansas are all making him priorities. Notre Dame has locked in a visit as well. So I just don't see Premer ending up in this class. But, since he's still on the list, felt like we had to bring him up here. So we still have one more on the offensive side of the ball. You went out to the West, the Western United States, and had a chance to see Jax Tanner from Idaho, who isn't a prospect on the offensive line board that I feel like Michigan fans talk a lot about, but he has been a priority for the Wolverines as a center for a long time. Just tell me a little bit about the time you spent with Tanner and where you feel Michigan is in this recruitment.
He really impressed me at the Under Armour Salt Lake camp. I thought he looked great. He's athletic. He's, they list him at 280, and I'd say that's pretty accurate. He still has, room to put plenty of weight on his 6'4" frame, but I thought he held up well strength wise. His recovery speed was incredibly impressive. Just really, really, really solid in one-on-ones and drills and everything. As far as where Michigan stands, I'd say Oregon is the team to beat right now for him, and then Michigan's in the next tier. I think it's going to be a little tough to beat some of the out west schools. He's a legacy at BYU, but someone worth pushing for as a true center, and he's a mission kid, so he's technically a class of 2028 recruit because he's taken the full 2-year mission.
Geez, 2028, man. That's a long time. I really like Jax Tanner, though. I think he would be a quality addition for 2028. Michigan has landed a mission offensive lineman in the past. Obviously, they had Andrew Gentry who transferred out. But like Ethan said, it looks like this one may end up, going towards Oregon or maybe BYU. Michigan has done a really good job recruiting him, though. So we'll see what comes of this first visit. Before we move over to the defensive side of the ball, this show is sponsored by My Perfect Franchise. You already know myperfectfranchise.net is your place for everything franchises. Are you a displaced corporate executive or wanting to put your career into your own hands? Or are you an experienced entrepreneur wanting to diversify? Andy Ludicky can help. Andy is a huge college sports fan and franchise veteran, having owned multiple franchises and businesses. Using his expertise, he helps others find their American dream through a very thorough consultation and evaluation process. Just like we're out on the road evaluating, making thorough, notebooks on everything Michigan and their recruits. Andy's doing the same thing with franchises. Call Andy, put your life and career into your own hands. Best of all, his services are 100% free to you. What do you have to lose? Go visit myperfectfranchise.net. Again, that's myperfectfranchise.net. And you can set up a Zoom call with Andy. You can call him at 404-973-9901. Make your franchise dreams come true. Ethan, what's the latest franchise you've been to?
The latest franchise I've been to, I went and got sushi from my Kroger supermarket, and it was good. You can't sleep on
Kroger, the go-to place for sushi. That's what Kroger is known for.
It's pretty solid. So that's the latest franchise I've been to, EJ.
Well, you can't go wrong with getting into the franchise business with Andy Ludicky and really stepping up the sushi game at Kroger. So again, go to myperfectfranchise.net. All right, let's talk about the guys coming in on the defensive side of the ball. And I want to start off with one of the more interesting recruits, and that is Deari Simeon out of New Jersey. This is a top 100 kid on 3. There aren't a lot of super highly touted true defensive line targets on Michigan's board. Of course, at the edge position, you have guys like Carter Meadows and Trenton Henderson that are 5 stars or borderline 5 stars. You don't have necessarily those types of prospects on the board, but Deari Simeon, very, very highly ranked by On3. Doesn't do a lot of interviews, has been very quiet about his recruitment. Recently released a top 4, though, and it looks like this is kind of a Big Ten battle here with Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State all on that list, Texas being the outlier. So I think that Michigan's done a great job of prioritizing him, even though Deari has been very quiet. He is a kid that Michigan has recruited for basically more than a year now. Lou Esposito's been out to his school on multiple occasions. Remember, Esposito is also a New Jersey native. Sharon Moore stopped by and saw Simeon during the winter contact period as well. So yeah, I mean, Michigan is definitely in the mix here, but it's hard to see or hard to say exactly where the Wolverines stand. especially with Michigan getting the first visit. I don't think that's ideal. I would probably lean Ohio State or Penn State here. But again, this is one of the more mysterious weekend visitors. Ethan, anything you want to add on Damari?
Yeah, I don't know if there's much projection that we can do just because we haven't been able to talk a ton to Damari. Keeps his recruitment very quiet, but I think at face value, it just doesn't work out super well for Michigan that they got the first visit out of the four.
Yeah. I mean, the first visit works out sometimes, but in recruitments like those where you have other contenders having those late visits and it's kind of a quiet recruitment, having that first visit doesn't necessarily work out the best. Um, let's go ahead and move on to a flip target. We all love talking about potential flips. So let's go ahead and discuss the recruitment of on 300 linebacker Shidarius Toodel. Now, I made my way to the Gulf Coast this spring in an adventure that required me to go through various storms and sleep at a Tesla charging station. But I did see Shidarius Toodle, and he's a really interesting prospect. I think he's listed at 6'3", 220. I don't think that's super accurate. He's probably about an inch shorter at about 6'2", and he's really filled out. He's like 235, I think his coach told me. So he could easily play at 250. He's a Mike all the way, and that's exactly where Michigan is recruiting him at. So you see 6'3", 220, you think, oh, this might be a guy that could come off the edge. Nah, he's super well built, really thick in his upper and lower halves. So, he's long been a priority for Michigan. He's been committed to Auburn since last July. That hasn't stopped Michigan linebackers coach Brian G. Mary from going out to the Gulf Coast and visiting Toodle on multiple occasions. He's been pretty open with his recruitment. I think the primary threats here are Michigan and Georgia. Now, Georgia already hosted him for an OV. They're actually trending on the On3 recruiting prediction machine, but he didn't flip right away to Georgia. So that definitely gives Michigan a puncher's chance going into this weekend. I know the Toodle family is very, very fond of Brian Jean Mary, who's caught a lot of flack here recently, but Jean Mary, I think, has done as good of a job as he possibly could in this recruitment. So yeah, some of the backlash, I guess, is deserved, but not in this recruitment. I think he's put in full effort. Now, will that equate to a Michigan victory here on the recruiting trail? I think we have to wait and see. I'd probably lean more towards Toodle staying in the South. But again, I think Jean Mary has given Michigan a puncher's chance in this recruitment. Ethan, what do you think?
We're on the same page there. I think Coach BJ has done a great job here. I think he's done literally everything he could do to this point. And I just don't think that's going to be enough in the end. I think it's going to be really, really tough to flip him from Auburn, and B, stave off the momentum from Georgia. I think he'll end up in the SEC. But Michigan's doing everything it can, and maybe it hits a home run on this OV weekend. They're going to have to.
Before we talk about our last expected official visitor, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free, get notifications every time we drop new videos. You want to subscribe, you want to get those notifications, especially because there could be breaking news throughout official visit season. So again, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free. Now let's talk about our last prospect, and that is Jordan Deck, who I think Michigan can win this recruitment. I really do. I went out and I spent some time with Deck this spring in Dallas, in which I also got caught in a tornado. So just fun times this spring. I did it all for you guys. But yeah, Jordan Deck was great to spend time with, getting to know him a little bit. This was actually my second time seeing him live. I went down to Dallas for the Under Armour camp in the winter. I got a chance to spend a little bit of time with him there, but this time getting a chance to see him go through a practice, talking to him after the practice, I think that Deck kind of fits that Michigan kid mold. He has a very magnetic personality, very high academic student. He's already set to graduate early, so wherever he commits, he'll be an early enrollee. I talked to his coach, who had nothing but great things to say about Jordan. It seemed like his teammates were very fond of him. All of those things are really, in positive indicators when it comes to kids that Michigan is recruiting. And when you look at his Final Four, it's not really scary, right? You have Baylor, which is the home state school, so that gives me some pause. Baylor gets the last visit, and that's probably the biggest thing preventing me from putting in a prediction right now is the fact that Baylor is local and gets the last visit. But I think Michigan can overcome that. I don't think distance is a huge factor, which is why 3 of the schools are out of region. So the other 2 contenders here are Colorado, which he's already visited. So he took an early visit there. Penn State, he was recently on campus in Happy Valley, but actually talked to our Penn State reporter, Ryan Snyder, who does a great job covering the Nittany Lions. And he told me that he doesn't think Deck will end up at Penn State. They already have a couple of safeties committed. So, I think Colorado doesn't scare me a whole lot. Penn State already having safety commits really could just turn out to be a Michigan Baylor battle. And if Michigan can overcome the distance factor, I think Deck could end up in the class, which would be great considering that Texas is continuing to surge for Chase Calicut. Michigan needs a bigger, taller, longer safety. Deck can fit that. I think he can be a better version of Makari Page in Michigan's defensive scheme. So we'll see how the official visit goes. But again, that Baylor visit at the end looms large, but maybe Michigan convinces him to shut it down sooner than later. You never know. Ethan, anything you want to add on Deck or the official visit weekend before we get out of here?
I think Deck's the only person on the list I'd put on commit watch. His official visit schedule is so unique because he doesn't have anything between now and June 20th.
Gives him a lot of time to think. Gives him a lot
of time to think about Michigan. That's going to be sticking in his mind. So I love where Michigan stands there. I think based off of your reporting.
Oh, look at this. Fireworks. I don't know how Ethan did that. But
I don't either, but maybe that's a sign of things to come.
That's a sign. It's a sign. Okay. The recruiting gods have spoken. They like Jordan Deck to land at Michigan. So we'll see. For all your Michigan recruiting coverage, again, keep it locked here. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, get notifications every time we drop those videos. And again, if you're not a subscriber to the Wolverine.com, you're definitely missing out. $1, 2 months. Use the promo code UM1 over at the Wolverine.com for everything official visit season. Ethan and I will see y'all next week.